May 10, 2025. 2 days after his election, Pope Leo XIV stood before the College of Cardinals and made a declaration that would shape his entire pontificate. He called for complete commitment to the path the Church has followed since the Second Vatican Council. He praised courageous and trusting dialogue with the contemporary world. He committed himself fully to the vision of Gaudium et Spes, the Council's pastoral constitution on the Church in the modern world. Now, a prominent legal scholar has responded with an open letter that pulls no punches. Raymond Marcin, Emeritus Professor of Law at the Catholic University of America, has written directly to Pope Leo with a disturbing thesis. The teachings of Vatican II contain the essence of modernism, the very heresy St. Pius X condemned in 1907 as the synthesis of all heresies. Let's understand the charge. In his encyclical, Pascendi Dominici Gregis, St. Pius X defined modernism as a system that makes the thinking of the day the criterion for Christian truth. The modernist, he wrote, seeks to make over Christianity, rationally explaining away its difficulties to make the religion acceptable to the thinking of the day. Once you accept this method, there are no fixed truths, only truths that adapt to each age. Marcin argues this is precisely what Vatican II did, and he finds evidence in an unlikely source, the writings of Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI. In his 1982 treatise, Principles of Catholic Theology, Ratzinger made an astonishing admission. He described Gaudium et Spes, the Council's signature document on the Church in the modern world, as a counter-syllabus, a revision of Pius IX's syllabus of errors, an attempt at official reconciliation with the new era inaugurated in 1789. In other words, the Council was positioned as a correction to the anti-modernist popes, rather than a continuation of their condemnations. Marcin quotes Ratzinger directly. The last word about the historical value of Vatican Council II has yet to be spoken. Not exactly a ringing endorsement of the Council's permanent validity. Now, defenders of Vatican II offer a different interpretation. Pope Benedict himself, in his famous Christmas address, 2005, proposed what he called a hermeneutic of reform or renewal in the continuity of the one subject Church. The idea is simple. When the Church's teaching seems to change, we must interpret it not as rupture, but as deeper understanding of the same faith. The Council's openness to the world was not a capitulation to modernism, but a new way of presenting eternal truths. Pope Leo has doubled down on this vision. In January 2026, he told the cardinals that Vatican II remains the Church's guiding star and announced he would devote his weekly catechesis to rereading its documents. The generation that attended the Council is gone, he noted. Now we must understand it not through hearsay, but through direct engagement with its texts. Marcin remains unconvinced. He points to Pope Paul VI's haunting homily in 1972. From some fissure, the smoke of Satan has entered the temple of God. Paul had overseen the Council. He had approved its documents, yet 9 years later he lamented that something had gone terribly wrong. The Vatican's published version of that homily is indirect, summarized, selective. Marcin wonders, why won't they release the full text? Then he catalogs the results of the past 60 years, mass attendance plummeting, belief in the real presence collapsing. Some surveys suggest 2/3 of Catholics no longer accept this dogma. Seminaries emptying, confession abandoned, scandals multiplying. He contrasts this with his own memories of the pre-conciliar Church, full churches, long confession lines, thriving parishes, children learning the faith from the Baltimore Catechism. All seemed well, he writes. Then came the Second Vatican Council. But is this fair? The Council's defenders argue that the crisis came not from the Council's true teachings, but from their misinterpretation, the so-called spirit of Vatican II, that Henry de Lubac called a para-council. The documents themselves, read properly, are orthodox. The problem was the theologians who ran ahead of them. Marcin's response is pointed. When the cure for modernism is replaced by a method for living with it, the patient doesn't get medicine, he gets a policy manual. He concludes with a direct appeal to Pope Leo. Reconsider the Church's complete commitment to this path. Recognize the dangers of the Council's dalliance with modernism. Because if St. Pius X was right, if modernism really is the synthesis of all heresies, then embracing it, even unknowingly, has consequences for souls. The debate is not academic. It touches every Catholic who wonders why the Church that once seemed so stable now feels so uncertain. Was Vatican II a genuine renewal or a Trojan horse? Was St. Pius X a prophet or an obstacle to progress? The answer depends on which hermeneutic you choose, and that choice, as Marcin's letter makes clear, has eternal stakes.